What's up, dudes? Gotta get my mic down here. It's better. How's everybody doing? What's happening out there? Let me know if you can hear me okay. And who we got here in the house? Let's see. Trolls, Milton, Ibarge, Ian, Earl. What's up, guys? Eston. We got Monk T. We got My Knees Hurt. What's going on, guys? How y'all doing? It's positively purple in here today. Yeah. Crazy. Somebody mentioned in the chat already that Mesa muffed the punt or something on the miff the punt. Muff. Did I say that? On the 2C, muff the punt. I guess that's the phrase on the 2C launch. What happened? I knew they were bringing out a new Mark 2C or like a reissue. I was reading some of the comments, and a lot of people felt like they could get that sound out of the kind of the modern. I don't know if it's the Mark, the latest Mark version, or maybe the Petrucci. But nonetheless, kind of an interesting amp, I think. I'd like to try one, see what they sound like. I was back in the 80s. I mean, Mesa Boogie was like the original kind of like. I just remember their ad copy was like, it made it sound like they had the best ad copy. You look through the brochure and it was like the brochure for the Mark III made it sound like it was going to absolutely be the be all end all, like of every single guitar amplifier ever made. Like, they would just use these terms that were like luscious, bubbling cleans, harkening back to the greatest of the 60s, blah, blah, blah. And then it'd be like the Channel 2 kicks it up into the brownest of English, and they just use all these terms that made it sound like it was like, oh my God, this amp does everything, So you had to have one. So I got a Mark III actually at some point in the 90s. Before that, I had a Studio Pre. When I was like 19, 18 maybe. I had 18, I think. I got a Studio Preamp and a 295 power amp. This is how crazy I've been ever since I was young. I saved all my money. My dad lent me the money and I paid him back for a Mesa 12-space rack, a Studio Preamp, a 295, one of those behemoth power amps. It was a lot of money at the time for a kid, and I saved that money making my, I just make like $12 an hour teaching, and I paid him off over like a year with the monthly installments. I wrote him 12 post-dated checks. Yep, I remember that. And I didn't want to borrow the money from my dad. It was funny. I remember I wanted to. I was at odds with my dad at that point. I remember I was going through a period of, I was 17 or whatever, 18 when I was deciding to get this, and I was having one of those like youthful rebellion. I need to break out on my own sort of thing. So I was going to borrow the money from. I think I got some kind of like bank loan or I remember it was through the store. It was kind of it was a little bit of a shady shop, but they basically had a finance program, and I was going to borrow the money on loan, or on a program, they had a financing program, which was not inexpensive. It was probably like 20% interest or something, but you could finance the gear, and I got approved for it. I don't know how. I might have been 18. Maybe that's how. I was just the age where, and they knew me, and I guess I don't know. But anyway, so it was going to cost me a fair amount, but I wanted to do it that way. I wanted to pay the interest because I didn't really want to borrow the money from my pop, which seems sad because it's so silly now. But anyway, he talked me into it, into lending me the money. And I wrote him 12 post-dated checks, and that's how I bought my first Mesa gear. But anyways, and then in the 90s, I got a Mark III. That would be the next thing that I got from them. And that amp, I really quite liked the Studio Preamp. And I heard one a little while ago, and I thought it sounded pretty good too. Like recently, maybe a year ago. There was one in Friedman's shop, and I was in there, and John one of the guys, Tokarski, that helps him work on amps and stuff was in there, and he was working on it. He used to work in Mesa store. He was always the Mesa. He knew the circuits really well and stuff. So he would work on the Mesa stuff, and so he was working on the Studio Pre, and it sounded good. And then I heard it, and I was like, it did sound good. It sounded good back in the day. That's a thing, but it was a good thing. Oh, wait, I forgot. The first amp I got, this is how I was able to afford all that gear. I remember the first amp I got, I'd saved money for a while, and it was actually a 50 caliber. That was my first Mesa. 50 caliber. So it was a 50 watt head with 4 EL 84s. It was the first version of the caliber amps. They made a caliber 22 and a caliber 50, which were both really quite nice. It's simple. Mine had the EQ, but there was no push pull or anything or none of that stuff. It was just a 2-channel, clean, dirty. And I remember that amp sounded really good, and I've often looked for another one. But it ran those EL 84s, kind of hot. And they red plated one day a few months after I got it, and I didn't know anything about tube amps yet. And I thought, oh no, this amp's got problems, and maybe I should just get something else. And then I was like using it to justify the problem. I was using it to justify what I thought was a step up, which was to the Studio Pre, the 295, and the rack, which was going to cost me a lot more money. I ended up trading the caliber 50 head into the store, and the difference is what I financed, and it was a fair amount difference. I remember it was probably another, at least because for the power amp and the rack and everything, it was at least like another $1,500 or $1,800 or something that I had to come up with. And the head, the 50 cal, had been like, I think they were $1,600 back then. That's my memory, Canadian, maybe $1,200 or $1,300 US back then, something like that, right? In the 80s. Anyways, it was a lot of money for a kid, and that was my first Mesa stuff. Now, in retrospect, I should have kept the 50 caliber, I think, because it sounded really good. It was actually like a great lead tone. I remember it had a nice, warm, sweet lead tone. Maybe it wasn't, the EL 84s and stuff. I don't know if it was super metal or whatever, but I remember the amp sounding really good. So I'd love to get another one of these days and try it and just see if it sounded as good as I remember, because that was like, and it was not too complicated, Maybe that was the beginning of my journey of liking things that are somewhat versatile but not too complicated. 2 channels, but let's not get crazy with push pulls and mid boosts and everything else under the sun. So anyway, Rick says church is now in session. Anybody, I guess so. Anybody that likes to geek out on this stuff like I've been for the last, Ian says the Sweetwater video was very weak. So that's for the 2C plus. Well, I'll have to go watch it and see. My pals at Sweetwater, I'll have to go give it a listen. That's an amp that I find intriguing, because Mesa, it was interesting. They were like an amp, and also in the 90s, of course, into the 2000s, and the rectifier became a de facto standard. And now I feel like that still is somewhat for that era of tone, that new metal kind of tone or whatever that was happening. That's like the amp, right? But Mesa, the Marks, it's almost reverted back to them being sort of it's a niche almost, I feel like. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like, what's a Mark IIc? What's people's association with it? Like, what classic stuff was cut with one? Well, we can look back and say, I think Lukather used one sometimes. Petrucci, obviously, his whole career. He's the main ambassador, I would say, these days. Brad Gillis. John Sykes, of course, Coliseum heads, so I can think of a few. But a lot of years have passed where I don't know if anybody knew for a long time, like, a guitar player we've in the last 15 or 20 years, that's used a Mark amp for like their main thing. Maybe you guys can come up with one. Like I say, I'm not dissing here. I'm just saying, and then what are some of the other classic Mark IIc tones that I'm missing? Like, who else used one back in the day? Why did it become such a classic amp where that's the one, the Mark IIc, not the B, not the Mark II, whatever. There's a reason why. And then some people say the Blue Stripe Mark III is actually the one. Like, I think Joe Barisi's a huge fan of that. And I don't know what that means, but I guess it means there's a blue stripe somewhere on it. I don't know what mine was, but it didn't sound good. Or at least it just wasn't for me. My Mark III, I ended up just turning knobs all the time and trying to get it to work for about 2 years, and then I sold it. That's my memory of it. Yes. What else have we got here? What are you guys talking about? There's a super chat there I'm going to grab in a second. Looking pretty scholarly there. I've got my CADDIS progressives on, so I can read a little easier. I wear these sometimes. I like them. Yeah. I'm playing through a Mesa Mini Rectifier, and it sounds great. That's cool. I've heard nothing but good. That's what most people say. Mini Rectifier, good amp. For that tone, great. A rectifier is really, I think, largely about the preamp. They develop all the gain and the grind and everything in the preamp. And the power amp is just for the sound reproduction. It's so that makes sense to me that it would sound big and like that amp is supposed to. Do you have a favorite chord? The F sharp 11, like Alex Lifeson, if I've only got to pick one. Braxall says, I still own the Mark III I bought at Garden Grove Mesa store in 87, a red stripe. Do you like it? Are you able to get good sounds out of it? You must, because you've still got it. My first really good amp was a Mesa Rectifier. Still wish I had it. Yeah, unfortunately, I ended up with the 3-channel, which was okay. I made a whole record with it. The 40-foot Echo record, like 95% of the guitar parts on it are that rectifier. And then when I toured, I didn't take it on the road. I actually used a Randall 4-space, like the M4 preamp and a Randall power amp. And I had a Recto module that I used for most of the tones, which really did the trick. It sounded great for that sound. But then I was able to get other sounds too, like the more Marshall-y stuff or whatever out of the other modules. So that was my rig for that. Let's see here. What else? I still have a 50 cal and a Mark III. Both are in kind of rough shape, says Tom. Tom, is it the 50 cal with the EL 84s? What do you think of it, if you can offer some opinions? Or is it the one with the 6L6s? I didn't really like the 6L6 version. To me, it sounded bright and edgy and lost what was cool about the sweetness of the EL 84 one. I really loved I just remember really liking the lead tone on it. Yeah. Marshall SV Studio sounds amazing for $12.99. Brown sound is pretty much there. They did a nice job on it. It's a really good little amp. I have to concur. The little Marshall Studio SV20s head end combo. It's a cool little amp. Basically gets you there. That sort of plexi thing. Lower volume. I compared it to my 50-watt Marshall that's up there. I had one here once. And I had them on the amp switcher and I went back and forth. And I was like, pretty much the same sound, just 3 dB quieter, Really similar. Very, very good. Ingrid. Let's make a new word. Why not? Let's see here. I had a Mesa Boogie Studio Pre going through a PV Classic 120. I remember those too. Remember the classic 120 and the classic 50 or 60 ones? The stereo. Yeah. Which, come on. I mean, the 60 watt would have been enough, right? 60 watts aside. Not enough. Yeah. Ebar says, I've got a 2-channel triple rec in the basement, too heavy to carry up the stairs. Good amp, though. Decent amp. What cab did you use with that 50 cal? I had a Mesa vertical, half open back, one of those ones, like those 80s ones with the cool metal grill on them. I'd love to hear one of those again. I quite liked it. I mean, it had the Mesa Black Shadow in it and something else. One was supposed to be kind of more EV, I think, and one was supposed to be kind of more Celestian, something like that. And it was a closed back in the bottom. It was essentially like running an open back on top of a closed back cab, and a closed back 112 on top of an open back because it was like separated, into two. But good sounding cabinet, I think, as I remember. Neat looking. I still like the way. Remember when AC/DC used them like in the 90s for some reason. Maybe they were just durable or something. I remember AC/DC using them though on tour around 90. You can see them on stage. Those 412s, half open back. Todd's in Nova Scotia. What's up, man? Early 50 cal with EL84s. Yeah. I realize that P20 glasses. Well, they're just for they've got progressives in them, so it's kind of nice. I can look up like this and see the chat from a little further away. I've had these forever. I just don't. I wear them sometimes, so I like them. What else we got here? Let's see. That's right. Thanks for reminding me. Looking forward to seeing you at Angel City Guitars. Thanks for the super chat. And here's something for the coffee fund, says John. Thanks, buddy. I've got a clinic coming up in LA at Angel City Guitars. Not exactly LA. It's sort of Woodland Hills, I guess, really, area. Is that right? Woodland Hills, I think. Nice guitar store. It's funny how the clinic came about. I was driving by there one day on my way to the beach, on my way to go out to Zuma and El Matador and just take a day off. And I was driving by and we noticed the store and thought, oh God, there's that store that I've never been to. That's our Sir dealer for, besides Mesa Hollywood or not Mesa Hollywood anymore. Sorry. Which is no longer there. Guitar Center Hollywood. Got Mesa on the brain today. Anyways, drove by Angel City Guitars and saw the shop. Thought I got to stop in. So we pulled off and went inside and had a look around. It's just a beautiful store. It's really nice. Great selection of cool guitars. And we got talking about clinics and stuff. And that made me think about the store. Now, when I developed my clinic a couple months later that I'm doing now occasionally, it seemed like prime opportunity to go there and do it. And they wanted to do one. So it's the 19th, I do believe. I hope I've got that right. It's Thursday of that week, I think. I think it's the 19th. I think that's right. I better double check. And it's my inspired by the Tone clinic. So where I go over a whole bunch of guitar sounds and kind of show you, what, Thursday, December 19th at 7 p.m. And you can go to the Angel City Guitars site and sign up. You have to sign up for it. So just search for Angel City Guitars Los Angeles and you'll find it. If I'm not sure. I assume it's angelcityguitars.com, but I could be wrong. But yeah, hit up the store and you can sign up. In the clinic, I go over some of my favorite guitar sounds and everything from super compressed cleans and stuff like 80s style stuff, using the harmonizer in interesting ways. Heavy down-tuned tones, all the way to super lush 80s kind of stuff. And just talk about how tone influences playing and how a different tone can kind of, set the tone for what you're, it's just, it inspires different styles and different parts and different stuff. So yeah. So what else we got here? Studio 22 was a killer little amp, freaking loud. Thanks again, John, for the super chat and for reminding me about the clinic. Hope to see some of you out there. Freaking loud. Yeah, I mean, it's 20. That's the reality. It's like 20 watts, even 15 watts is like the PT15, right? You just like, if the power up design's right, if you're not hitting it too hard, if you can just balance how hard you're hitting it with, a great sounding preamp, you can get a lot of volume out of even 10 watts. Like pretty substantial. And certainly 20 or 22, quite possible. So, there's a point where you drive into something where it gives no more clean power. And it's just not going to get any louder. It's just going to compress more and start to sound squashed, right? And that is a lot of old amps, I think, that how hard you're driving out of the phase inverter, I guess, into the rest, or maybe it's into the phase inverter, but right around there, how hard you're pushing the signal, you can get a fair amount of clean you know, and then at some point it just doesn't give up anymore and starts to collapse. So if you can kind of balance that out, you can make an amp sound balanced or you know, like a bigger amp, you know, the tone of a bigger amp. Like, in other words, it's not like collapsing and sounding like that squashed thing that some amps do when you turn them up past 5, you know. I don't know if it's the illusion of headroom or if it's actually headroom or what. I guess it's actually headroom. Somebody else says the 22 caliber combo was pretty sweet. Yeah. Well, let's see here. Hope you're having an awesome Sunday, says Impega624. Would you be able to give a rundown on that gold Van Halen Strat with a super distortion if it's not too much trouble? Well, it's just it's an old ESP body, actually, that guitar. And the super distortion is an old one from the 70s. The guitar used to have an ESP neck on it. I wish I still had it, to be honest. Like, I remember it was literally in the 90s when I took the neck off and put it on a different guitar. I bought a kit body. I'm remembering now. I bought a kit body from Warmoth. It was a trans green, like kind of a emerald green. Don't remember what it was made of. Maybe ash. I think it was swamp ash, actually. So trans green, swamp ash, kind of super Strat thing. And then I also had this gold ESP that originally was like a 3 single coil, you know, parchment pick guard, sort of 60s looking. Had a rosewood board, I remember, and that was that gold. You know, you can imagine that gold guitar, if you know the one he's talking about, I'm talking about, with a traditional Strat appointments and rosewood and an ESP. Kind of look like one of those Ron Wood, you know, like ESP traditional sort of nice guitar. You know, I wish I'd still just kept it stock. It was cool, but instead I turned it into what I did, which, you know, the neck. I think the green guitar from the Warmoth body, I got that bird's eye neck. I swapped necks basically on the guitars. So the green Warmoth body ended up with the ESP rosewood fingerboard neck, and I turned it more into kind of a traditional sort of super Strat thing. And then the gold guitar, I got a black pickguard for and put the super distortion in. The bridge is the same. It's the original, you know, whatever ESP was using at the time. And then the guitar has this a Warmoth neck on it, which is kind of I don't know what the radius is, if it's a 12 or what it is, but it's vintage style frets and nothing too shreddy actually on that guitar. And then it's got some old locking, maybe Schaller tuners on it or something, or Goto, some kind of locking tuner. I think they're Schallers from way back in the day. So that's it. And it's basswood, as I remember. Basswood. Yeah. So that's what that guitar is. Yep. Looks kind of cool. I think. Kind of a neat looking guitar. What else we got here? Let's see. Eston Ray says, I have a triple rectifier 2-channel Epiphone. Epiphone? What does that mean? Why Epiphone? You mean Mesa, right? Great amp, but too heavy to move. So is it a combo? It's a combo, right? Like a what do they call those? I can't remember. Tremel verb or something? Something like that, or no? Or it's a triple rectifier. I don't know. Anyways, you've got one of those amps and they're heavy. They are. Yeah. Earl says, I want to tell you how much I enjoy listening to you play. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I've been playing catch up on some of your older posts. Blown away. Kudos. Oh, man, you're too kind. I'm just a guitar nerd doing what I do, but I appreciate you. Thank you for the nice compliment. Appreciate it. Vito says the guys in Lamb of God use them. That's a good perspective there. I wouldn't have known that. I don't know much about that band, so but that's cool. Prince used a Mark II clean with Boss, did he? And then he used Soldano later, right? Because he primarily, I think, used a lot of Boss pedals, right? And then kind of just ran pedals into amp for tone, right? Clean amp, sort of. I have a Road King cabinet. It says Ebarge. Is that for your Mesas, obviously? Oh, Hammett. Yeah, of course. Master of Puppets is 2C and Marshall blended. Good point. I should have thought of that. Of course, Metallica. And that's an epic tone, obviously. Mr. Douglas, I finally finished another Super Strat build, and I used your Thorn too. It's my new favorite, perfect rock humbucker. Thanks. Yeah, I really like it too, actually. Great, mid-gain kind of situation, easing out of PAF into a little more heat, but still nice and sweet and all that, and it does the thing. Yeah. Holdsworth used the 50 cal, the dual rack, and the quad. That's interesting. I think I seem to remember him using the 50 caliber. I don't remember the dual rectifier though. Interesting. Metallica. Yes, of course Metallica did. Farid says, shame about Nico McBrain retiring. Drummers, man, it's yeah, I heard Nico from Iron Maiden retired this week. I think it's really taxing to do, especially the hard rock and metal and stuff when you get older and you get into your 60s or something, and it just, it's very difficult, I think, to maintain the level of it's a very physical instrument, obviously, and it's just tough, hitting things constantly. It's got to be not fun, right, on your joints and everything. You get older, just stamina. So I get it in a way. And, bright side, I mean, they'll probably end up with a great drummer that just enhances things and, brings it to it's hard, man, because it's like, especially on the drums, if these bands want to keep playing, obviously the ultimate is if the original lineup can retain intact as much as possible, right? But Charlie Watts, he passed away. It's terrible, but I know he had a hard time playing for, and it was difficult, physically difficult and stuff for a long time. And then they've got Steve Jordan, right? And it's like when I saw the Stones recently, it was like, damn, they sounded vital, because and same thing with AC/DC, man. My buddy Matt playing with AC/DC, he is the greatest at doing the, it sounds like he's paying homage to the original feel, original tempos, original everything. It sounds right, like what we remember from the records. And and also Chris Chaney on bass. And so it's a similar thing almost to like, when you've got the like a kind of a new rhythm section, right? But they're doing the parts. And then you've got the original guys singing and playing guitar and stuff. It's like, it sure does lend like a bed, I'm trying to paint obviously the best thing, like I said, is if you've got the original guys there, but people can't do it anymore. They gotta, retire or they pass away, things happen. And if there is a new rhythm section and there are right guys and they really pay tribute and respect to the parts, boy, the band sure, like when I saw AC/DC last June, man, like they sound great, man. I mean, Brian just, it's hard for him, but you kind of don't care. I mean, when you're at the show, it's like, this is great. He's up there going for it. And Angus is just like force of nature. It's like crazy how much, skill and energy he's still got at 69, I think. And then when the rhythm section's there and they're just pumping, it's like, it really lends a nice bed to the whole thing and lets it really just, I don't know. I'm just trying to put a positive spin on things here. I'm not saying it's a better situation, but musically it's, it sure can't sound good when you've got, these folks that can really hang with the original tempos and the original feels and stuff and everything, especially on drums and, drums, bass, stuff like that. So it's interesting. Just kind of, maybe unpopular opinion or whatever, but yeah. Does a musician ever really retire though? Yeah, maybe he'll turn up sometimes or something. I kind of love the way Judas Priest does it, where Glenn Tipton still comes out and plays a song or two, and does what he can, and it's like, and it's, the best case scenario, Andy Sneap, their longtime producer, who's really great and obviously gets it, and really understands the music and respects and is the right guy, obviously. And then, for him to be there as it makes a lot of sense. So the way that they do it, if you can come up and play a little bit and stuff, and we all get older and nothing's forever. So was the rectifier borrowed from Soldano? Well, I think it's largely a Soldano circuit, yes, but there's some things that make it a little different, that it's not obviously the exact same setting at, but yeah, it's pretty SLO. That's what people say. A lot of people, man. I mean, the 5150 and the rectifier were both kind of taking from Soldano, and I guess, it could be argued, I guess, Mike, Soldano could have gone on to be a really big company. Maybe they would be as big as, Mesa or something, had they, but it just didn't go that way. People kind of took from Mike his ideas, but in the long run, I think Soldano gets a lot of respect, and obviously still around now, and the amp's still selling. There's new products and stuff like that, and I think in the long run, people recognize a lot of people know this story, that these designs were borrowed. So it's all worked out in the wash, I guess. God, I'm such a positive guy. I'm such put a positive spin on everything, including when drummers retire or pass away, and when people steal other people's designs. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. That's just how it is. I have to buy some good quality IRs for Rocktowns. Any company suggestion? Some of my favorites are the Celestians for sure, as well as the Yorks. I think you can kind of almost get anywhere you need to go there. I do quite like Ownhammers too. Ownhammer has some great ones. I mean, like, he's got so many that I can't even fathom. Like, it's crazy. But like, for instance, the Guns N' Roses cabinet, which was basically a cabinet that I think belonged to Richard Fortus, that was used on the Chinese Democracy album, I think. Anyway, I think that cabinet, one of the best that I've heard from him. It sounds really good. Those IRs of that particular cabinet, for example, great for that. Marshall rock tones, terrific. What else? I would say the Yorks. I mean, they sound kind of perfect and sort of produced to me. You guys ever try Steven Slate drums, like the drum plug-in package? It's like, it sounds like everything's EQ'd and compressed and just slamming right out of the gate. Versus BFD was another drum sample package where everything's drier and just kind of like well-mic'd recorded drums, but nothing's like mixed yet. That's the difference between, say, York and maybe Celestian. Celestian IRs sound to me probably still to this day the most like a mic in front of a cabinet without any processing, or just very good. What you get is what, that's the way they sound. Yorks to me sound like a little more 3D and bigger, and just a little more like mix ready or something. And it just depends which way you want to go. I feel very comfortable with Celestians because it's what I'm used to hearing with a cabinet in the other room and a microphone or two in front of it. They sound very, very true to that. And I think there's a lot to be said for that, because if like you're a recording engineer or you're a live engineer and you expect to get something, it's like, that's what you're going to get. The balanced 57 or the dark 57 on a 412, be it V30s, greenbacks, whatever, sounds the most to me like, yeah, that's what a 57 sounds like on a guitar speaker. So if you're going to go play live and you need good IRs, and you don't want to surprise the engineer or give them something that they're unfamiliar with or something, just use the dark 57. It's not really that dark. It sounds like a 57 that's just out into the paper, not on the cone, but out into the paper fully, I would say, like just one notch beyond the edge, which is where a lot of people put microphones for live. Put that in your modeler or whatever, and this sound person will probably pull up the sound and go, oh, that sounds really good. That's cool. It's like that I can work with. So the Yorks, like I say, they just sound very good, but they're a little more processed sounding. They sound bigger to me for some reason, like almost like they've been, you know what I mean? Like mastered. I don't know how else to describe it, but good. They're good. They're definitely good. So if you want both flavors, get some York package and some Celestial package, maybe some Some own hammer. Just with own hammer, be prepared because he goes really to the wall with like options, and you've got a lot of options in there. And I find that personally, just for me, I find it a little overwhelming. But he does great work, and he's one of the originals. He's been doing it for a long time, and he keeps kind of refining his process and to make it better and better and whatnot. So yeah. Okay. Let's say here. T-Top says, I had a 20 space Mesa Sus4 rack and a rack mount dual rack and Mark IV back in the day. Had so many issues with those amps, not least of all lifting the damn rack. Yeah, my racks, man. I remember I remember wrecking the springs in the back of a BMW hatchback with mine, yeah. The 50 cal with 6L6s was horrible. Yeah, not great, right? That's what I thought too, because I had a friend with one, and when I heard it, I was like, that doesn't remind me of my amp. My amp sounded really sweet. But the lead tone was like kind of Joe Satriani sounding. It had a really nice, warm mid sustain, liquid, what you wanted it to sound like. I feel like that's what the Mesa with the EL84s might sound like. Antithesis, like an EL84 and a Mesa is kind of odd for Mesas. They were always known for 606s or 34s, and maybe it was their first EL84 amp. Maybe, I think. I don't remember any others before that from them. It was around 86 that it came out. Yeah. There's another super chat I got to grab there. Thanks for your super chats, guys. Appreciate it. What else have we got here? Let's see. What's my favorite amp these days? The short answer is, the PT100 actually, because it's so damn, great for doing so many different things. It was really great. I mean, the clean channel and the dirt, it's my main amp on tour for the last couple of years. I've used them, of course, on and off now for 15 years since they came out. It's really that long. They came out in 2009. We brought out the CAE version. So, it does everything I need, man. And we've been playing a little bit with things toward, I'll just say without details, like towards the, there will be a PT50 and it's going to be really cool. And we're pushing it forward, we're doing neat things with it, so it's gonna be very cool. But the 100 for me, I've got one here that's a this one that's right here with the latest cosmetic and everything, and that's gonna be my tour amp this year, I think, that one, and it sounds just terrific. So I love it. So yeah, honestly, if I could only have one amp, it would be that one right now. I could get rid of everything and probably just use that. Now I've got a lot of favorites though, so I love AC30s. I love that top hat that's sitting there. Mr. Mino does really fun stuff. Of course, a good old Plexi style amp, the SL68, my old Marshall up there, the Friedmans, I love what Dave does as well. The Soldano, it's great, terrific. Good stuff. Just bought a 5150 Iconic head, which I would have known about this amp earlier. I don't need a booster distortion for solos. It almost has too much gain. Yeah, they put a lot of gain in those 5150s for sure. Here's an interesting. Says Fractal VP4 to Mini Rectifier to Friedman 212, best tones I've had in the room for ages. The Mini doesn't have the modern stuff like IR loader and direct out. That's cool. Yeah, it sounds like a good little rig for sure. I've heard nothing but good things about the VP4. Do you use it for cable, or just run it in front or in the loop? Tom says yes. He's got the EL8450 cal. Really like the amp, but the caps are swollen. The board's getting pretty brittle. Interesting. I'll grab that super chat I just missed there. I'll get that in just a sec. Earl says, I would love to hear you interview Eric Johnson, Talks Shop. You two are among the most knowledgeable guitar tone chasers on the planet. I mean, I love Eric. I've met him once. He's just a lovely guy, such a gentleman, soft-spoken, really cool. I'd love to have that opportunity at some point. And he was really late 80s into the 90s, Eric, the Tones album. And then, of course, Avia Musicom came out and blew everybody's mind. And it's still just a classic guitar album. And Eric stands kind of with Jeff Beck and Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, I think, as being one of the guys that really have a career that spans 30, 40 years playing primarily instrumental guitar stuff, and on another level, that, and you know what really separates those guys? It's songs, obviously, right? With melody and listenable songs, they're not just, they're not just shredders and chops and Instagram type guitar playing, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, if you want to have a 30 or 40 year career, you can't just shred on Instagram. I don't think. You got to write some songs, right? And have some songs that people know you for. So of course, you've got everything from Cliffs of Dover to Always With Me, Always With You to, Steve's work with Passion and Warfare and everything else. You know what I mean? It's like front and onwards, they really set the tone around then with, I think, like the Surfing with the Alien, Flying in a Blue Dream, Extremist albums from Joe, and then of course the Passion and Warfare, Steve, Eric's Avia Musicom. That's a very important era for me as a guitar player. Late 80s into the 90s. Yeah. Thanks for the videos, says Gordon Tubbs. What's one piece of out of production gear you wish made a comeback? One piece of out of production gear. Well, since we've been talking about the Mesas, maybe it'd be cool if they tried to make the 50 caliber again with the EL84s in the original design. Anything else? Let me think. The original Hyper Fuzz from Boss. What a great fuzz pedal that they discontinued for some weird reason. That was great. People didn't get it back in the day, but I think it's a classic. It sounds amazing. It does both octafuzz, really cool, and a big gnarly kind of alternative fuzz. Big muffy, I guess, but maybe a little gnarlier. Less smooth. It does that great and is buffer friendly and everything. So there's a terrific pedal. Yeah, maybe they could do a new version with a Waza version or something. Yeah. Bought a Sir Jam custom from Angel City Guitars. Beautiful and very chill store. Yeah, super nice. Nice place. 100%. I'm grabbing those super chats in just a second here. Anybody know any good portable amps? Looking for something to clip on my belt. Oh, that small. So, well, I mean, you need one of those little Marshall guys then, don't you? Or, you could always use a headphone thing, like the Fender Mustang thing. I thought those sounded really good. I did a YouTube video of it. You can hear, I took the line out on it, recorded all the guitar parts with the sounds in it. It's like this big. Sounds really good. The Black Star Fly 3, I think it's called, right? Is that what it's called? That little guy is killer. So check that out. Yeah. Just want to thank you for doing these videos, says Angelo. Connecting with your followers. Thanks, man. No, it's always fun for me. I love being here. It's really fun. I look forward to it every week. Wouldn't miss it unless I have to, which it always bums me out. And it's been rare. I've probably missed maybe in how many years have I been doing this? Is it 5 now? I think, right? 52 weeks in a year. And we're at 340. So you do the math. 6 years? I don't know. Anyways, what the hell was I talking about? I don't know. I'm getting old. I've been doing this so long. Yeah. I think I've missed less than 10. I might have missed 10. That's it. I'm proud of that. But it's really selfish because I do enjoy it. So, what's the string gauge for your baritone? I don't know that. I have that baritone here, that Jackson baritone that is really fun to use. I do have some baritone strings in the other room, but I won't go up and get them. I to be honest, that Dan Electro baritone I've had for years. I've never changed the strings. So, that's why I don't know, because I finally bought some. I had Ernie Ball send me some, And I've got them in the other room, but I still haven't put them on. And I probably got them a year ago from them, so it's probably time. I was like, I should really change the strings on my baritone. Can you guys send me some baritone strings? And they sent me some, and I haven't even looked at the gauge, so I don't know what they are. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Dakota says, I went to local recording studio, and they had a PT100 head in one of the track rooms. That's awesome. It's a great, I mean, if you need a modern amp, you know, if you got some old AC30 and something Tweed and, you know, maybe a Marshall Plexi or something like that, you know, and then you get a PT100. What are you going to not be able to do? Nothing. You can do it all. Yeah. You can do it all. September Fire with a super chat. Thank you. I want to get the barefaced cabinet with Celestion F12 X200 FR speaker. Seems interesting. You're talking about my cabinet. My cabinet was made by somebody local here in California, and I regret to report I don't know the name. Somebody sent me this cabinet a long time ago, and they said, I just wanted to send you one of these so that you can check it out. I make these. And I was like, oh, thank you very much. And I got it, and then I lost the contact info, and I don't think I ever heard from this person ever again. So if you're the person that watching this and you sent me a really nice open back 112 that's unfinished, please contact me because I don't know who you are. And I used your cabinet in a video a while ago, and it's a great little cabinet. So let me give you some props. Hit me up again. These things happen around here. I'm very scatterbrained as it is, and then it's like I'll just things, you know, I can't keep track of paying the electric bill, let alone it's just how my brain works. So, or doesn't work, so to speak. But yeah, the cabinet actually does sound pretty good with that F12 X200, which is a guitar. It's a full range speaker designed for guitar. So it's not a guitar speaker. It's a full range speaker, but it's designed for guitarists. It's designed to feel like a guitar speaker, like whatever kind of, you know, the feel, the give, the whatever. It's got a concentric sort of layout. So it looks like a 12-inch guitar driver with a, you know, dust cap in the middle, but behind that dust cap, there's a little horn of some sort or something, tweeter, for the high-end stuff. Yeah. The clipping phase inverter is the classic Marshall tone. I agree. Yeah, the clipping phase inverter. You might be referring to earlier when I said not pushing into the phase inverter too hard. I agree. Yeah, the phase inverter is a part of it, but there's also the mount that comes out of the phase inverter into the rest of the power amp is kind of part of the. Well, that's post phase inverter master. You can vary it continuously, can't you? You know, and hear what it does. But yeah, thanks again for that super chat, September Fire. Did you demo the Bella? I thought I did. I think I did way back when I was in Santa Monica and it first came out. It was many years ago. It was like 9 years ago when that app came out originally. Isn't that crazy? In the passage of time. Oh God. Would it be a good alternative to the Lone Star Clean Channel? Yeah, a Lone Star Clean Channel is really Fendery. I know that, the circuit. It's kind of like the PT100 clean channel, like not far off at all from which is, you know, they're both good cleans. And I'll tell you how I came to that. I really love the PT100 clean channel. It's basically a Fender. We've tweaked it over the years, but it's somewhere in between a twin and a super sort of, but pretty much straight up 60s Fender. On the Helix, I was looking for amp channels that reminded me the most of the PT100, and I came across the Lone Star Clean channel. So in modeling land, right? And I was trying it. I was like, this really sounds like the clean channel on my amp. So I'm going to go with this. And it's the Lone, it's Texas C. It's for sure. It's Fendery derived. Must be. So one day, John Sir was working actually on a Lone Star that he was repairing for somebody. And I said, hey, tell me how close the clean channel is to the PT100. And he went through and looked at it and said, it's basically almost like the same, like super similar to. And I was like, our ears tell no lies. There it is. So, yeah. What else we got here? The studio that had the PT100, says Dakota Barrett, also had a 1973 Marshall Plexi. We call those metal panel or JMP because the Plexi means pre-69 or, you know, pre-late 69 when they still had the Plexi panel. But Semantics, you know what I mean. Which I did the Van Halen trick on, turning everything on 10, and it was causing monitor distortion. Well, it was just really loud, wasn't it? 100 watt. Could be a 50, I guess. You didn't specify. But anyways, not every old Marshall will sound great when you do that to them. You know, I mean, they got to be healthy and stuff. That's all, you know. So it could be other things going on too. Yeah. What else we got here? Let's see. Brad Gillis used the Boogie 22 caliber plus with EQ for his Aussie gig. Did he? Really? The 22? Not like a 2C or something? That surprises me. I saw them like on that tour. I saw Brad with Aussie because Randy had just passed away, sadly. Yeah. What else have we got here? Moving down through the chat. Let's see. Sorry, just reading. Chris says, Fenders have a sound because of the bolt-on and the longer scale, but it's thin and tinny like an AM radio. Fact of the matter is, no hard rock players use a stock Strat. Well, that's not true, my friend. Gary Moore back in the day. John Sykes back in the day. Stock Strats, broski. Brian Too Loud McLeod, my friend. You've got your research to do. Look for John Sykes at the 84 Monsters of Rock, where he pulls out a red Strat, probably Dakota or what's the other color? Fiesta. And Gary Moore, Quarters of Power, right? Didn't he around then play his and you know, because he's a badass and his left hand and the whole 9 yards. Gary Moore, red Strat. He could wrestle that thing into, you know, oblivion, into submission. There it is right there, Gary Moore's red Strat. There's a picture of him playing it. Like that. Can't see him, but here's one. A YouTube video. You're not going to tell me Gary Moore is not a hard rock player. There he is with his red Strat. Both he and Sykes. So you want to remove that uppercase no and go to, actually just get rid of it. Say most. I can get with most. Who else used a Strat that was in hard rock? I mean, we could argue Ingve, but of course he's changed. Sure, I'll give you it ain't stock because it's got the HS whatever. But those pickups aren't hot, man. Like that's the thing about an HS3. It's just noise canceling and warmer sounding than a Strat bridge pickup, but it's not actually a hot pickup. You know, so Ingve sure made it rock with an overdrive and dude, Richie Blackmore. What are we even talking about here? Okay, he had Seymour Duncan quarter pounders in there later, but that was later. I mean, early days, you know. Right? Long history of Strats and super Strats used in rock and metal. Are you new? Yeah, if you come in and make these grandiose statements, you're gonna get beat up a little. Everybody's really nice around here, but they will I don't know, they'll tough love you a little bit. Who's the new drummer in Maiden? Dan, tell us. Don't make that statement and then don't tell us. Who is it? You're gonna make me go look for it. Iron Maiden new drum. Who is it? There it is on Ultimate Classic Rock. Who's that cat? Simon Dawson. So he played in Steve's band. Okay, it makes sense. He's got a little bit of pedigree there, or whatever you call it. With he played with Steve Harris's British Lion band. That's Steve's. So makes sense. Great. Good on you, buddy. Holdsworth would play through the solid state Lab Series amps, standard issue at MI. Still sound like Holdsworth. Yeah, I have one here, and it's actually really cool. It's does the Ty Tabor thing, but I don't have all the Ty stuff. I want to get all the stuff to really try and get the sound, but that means getting a Strat Elite with the right preamp and all that stuff. And then, got the EQ. There's a guy on YouTube that nails the Ty Tabor sound. And he's got all the stuff, but I do have the amp, which is, I guess, that's if the guitar is 40% and the amp is 40%, and then all the effects and stuff are the other 20, the MIDI verb and the EQ and you have a unique flanger or something. Anyways. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. It looks like you use a Sir V63 in your signature. I'm building a modernized 59, considering the Sir pickups. 63 versus the 63 plus. You could go 63 plus in the bridge, maybe. I mean, I kind of like the 63 in the neck and the middle is, to me, really great. If you want a little, because it's going to shift the resonant peak, I think, of the pickup and just make it a little hotter, darker, and that ain't a bad thing in the bridge, right? So, you might want to go 2 63s and a 63 plus in the bridge. That might be my recommendation. I tend to like brighter, more open single coils in the neck and the middle. You can always back down the tone control a little bit if you want to. And in the bridge, I don't mind the hotter thing. So that's the way I feel about that. Could you tell us a little about the aura in the thumbnail? So it's one of the prototypes that they made. They made about 5 prototypes for the aura guitar. This was a Sir guitar that came out a number of years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago. That was John's homage, basically, to our favorite guitars from Kalamazoo, and with, of course, all the problems fixed. So it stays in tune unbelievably well. You can play it for songs and check the tuning, and it'll still be in tune. So that's the reduced string pull over the nut, the straight string pull to the nut, to the tuners over the nut. Very important. It's nice and light. It's made of okume, which is kind of African mahogany. It's got thornbuckers in it. It sounds like great, and it's just really, really a pleasure. So it'd be probably 8.5 pounds, something like that. Beautiful neck on it. Very nice guitar. They did a great job on him. Yep. What else we got here? Just looking through some comments here. Nico is part of the personality of the band. I know what you mean, of Maiden, sure. I'm sure musically there are others out there that can fill in, but Nico's such a character and likable guy. Agreed, yeah. Agreed, but we got to give it, if he's got to retire, he's got to retire. So it's like, it's not like it was like a animosity KK Judas Priest thing or anything like that. It's more of a, a passing of the torch because somebody just, he wants to retire. So it's a little like Cliff Williams, the bass player from AC/DC. He just, I don't want to tour. He did that one desert trip show, and then it was like I'm out on the touring, And you gotta get certain point, people get older, and that's it. They make a decision. So, yeah, super chat there. I'm going to grab in a second. Thank you for that. Thank you guys for the super chats today. I appreciate it. Keeps the coffee flowing around here. Do you recommend the Soldano X88IR or SLO 100 head and cabinet for recording? If it was only recording and you're just living in the studio, I gotta say I would probably just go with the preamp. It's pretty great. Yeah, I have that one here, and they did a really, really good job on that piece of gear, and for recording, man, is it ever, Steve Stevens has one too, and he texted me and he's like, "Am I crazy or is this thing really, really good?" And I was like, "No, it is. They did a great job on it. The way the IRs are implemented with the channels and everything, and then also the nice full clean Fendery clean on there, and the crunch or channel, whatever, you can figure the two overdrive channels however you want, but they're the little things that they've added, which isn't a ton, but the things that they added make it better than the original. How many times can you say that? Usually the originals are pretty coveted, right? But it was a nice, just the right things, So for recording purely, now if you're playing live and you primarily play through a cabinet, I would say just go with the amp, But that's what I think. Can I recommend a good DAW? Because me and my dad may end up making some music just for fun. I'm a Logic guy. I've always used Logic, and for many years, I was never really that into Pro Tools and stuff. And it's just because back in the day, Logic ran on a native, without the, Pro Tools sound cards and all that or whatever they were, their DSP. Logic ran natively better than the original, like M-Box, which would use the computer's juice and stuff for all the processing. And those just didn't, you ran out of power pretty quickly when you started adding some plugins and stuff. So I went to Logic and I never looked back. The only other DAW I've really messed with is Luna, which is the UA DAW. It does sound really good. So it just depends on what you're doing. But big Logic guy for a number of years. So it's relatively easy. If you've got a Mac, you can try GarageBand, and it's almost like Logic Lite these days, and it gets you into the workflow and stuff. And if you get used to that, then you can kind of graduate to Logic pretty quickly, I think, and easily. And you buy it once, and the updates just keep coming forever. That's the other thing about it. They, you don't have to purchase it again after 10 years or 5 years or something like that, or purchase upgrades and things. None of that. None of that. Music Therapy Laz, what's up? Wishing us all the every kind of happy holidays there is. Good to see you. Yeah. Hebot says the hair is growing in nicely. It's still there, so I figured just let's let it go. Let's see what happens. Thank you. Star Trek, I think. Edward Chu, thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the live every week. He says, I'm considering PRS S2 22 versus or 20 S2 22 versus 24 fret. Do I think the position of the neck pickup makes a big difference? I do. Yeah, I'm not a big 24 fret fan, although I've always got a couple of them. I've got a Sir Modern and stuff that's 24. Cool. Nice to have one guitar that, gets you there. But primarily I like the neck pickup a little further west, east, whatever. You know what I mean? This is my Jeff Picaro look, says Mr. Zosh. I'm cool with that. Picked up the Soldano plug-in from Neural for half price. I haven't tried it yet. It's really good. It's very nice. Neural plugins, ruling. Let's see here. +1 for the cat content. We love the kitties. They're the best. Edward Chu, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate. Oh, I already got you. Sorry. See, I'm that forgetful. It was just 2 minutes ago. Sorry. Dave Burley Project with a super chat. Thank you. You're a staple of the wife and I on Sunday afternoons. That's one of the things that I appreciate that. That's one of the things that I like. I've always sort of tripped out to hear about it. I like it. Like sometimes I think the last time I was in line at the Beach Show, Steve Vai and Danny Carey and Adrian Ballou, Tony Levin concert, and somebody came up and said, "Hey, we watch you all the time on Sundays," and it was a guy with his wife, And I'm always like, I'm sorry to invade your house on Sundays, and you guys are trying to have Sunday time or whatever. But anyways, I appreciate that. Thanks. I hope it's interesting and enjoyable for all parties. Ian says, I really wanted the SLO30 to be made with 6v6s. 4 6v6 would be sweet. Yeah, that could be cool. they got their own sound, What is the SLO 30? Is it just it's just 5881s probably? And then it's kind of low voltage or something so that to get to 30 watts? I'm not sure exactly, but I don't remember. You can tell me. You missed my super chat, said September Fire. Did I? I might have just not got to it yet, but let me take a look here and see. Pete, that is you on Blue Sky, right? Yeah, I've got a Blue Sky account. It's the let's look at all my accounts here. Where's my Blue Sky? It looks like this. Where's me? Pete Thorn at Blue Sky Social. There I am. That's my Blue Sky. Come join me. I don't have that many followers on Blue Sky. I don't think that many people are on Blue Sky, but I've got 357. So many social media spots, so little time. Did you upgrade your Mac to an M3 or M4? Neither, Deshaun. It's an M2, I think, because that's all that was available in the Mac Studio when I bought this one. So, and then I've got an M1 laptop. It all works fine. Thanks for the super chat. Ray says the 50 caliber sounded great before they broke. They did. Yeah, right before they caught fire. They were really good. Guitars for your project. Are you going to upgrade to the new Apollo Gen 2? I don't know, man. Probably not anytime soon. My current, I've got an X8P that's, I don't know. I mean, it's great. So I'm fine with it for now. I've got two. I've got that and then an older Apollo. I'm just gonna rock these for the foreseeable future. I'm looking for that super chat there that I supposedly missed, but I'll keep just kind of skipping around here all over the place. Have you checked out the new J Rocket Phil X overdrive? No, but I saw Phil a couple weeks ago and he told me that he had that. So would like to try it. Would like to try it. Just Sean there with another super chat. Is your signature PT15 amp loud enough for live on mic? Certainly, yeah. I've done club shows with it. I've also done even theaters where I'm not too close to the drummer. I did an old classic rock show. If you watch a classic rock show gig from 2020, a bunch of the songs are on, like Thunderstruck classic rock show. Search that and you'll see it. We're playing like a 2,000 seater. That's just the PT15. That was the only thing I was using on that. And the tone's good too. Yeah, it's definitely nice and cranking. Do you like Jazz Masters? I have a Squire 60s vibe, 70s vibe Squire Strat, and a Mexican Fentelli. I found I like the Jazz Master the most. That's cool. I've never owned one. I came really close to one in the 90s that was a perfect under the bed 1965 all original Jazz Master with all the stuff and the case and the whole 9 yards. It was $1,500 in about 1995, and I just couldn't come up with the money. I was too poor. Man, I wanted that guitar, but that's the closest I ever came to buying a Jazz Master. So one of these days, I've looked. I love them in theory. I love the look, and until you get a guitar like that and spend some time with it, I'm not really familiar with the pickups. So I need to play it for a while. Jazz Master, Jaguar, the two guitars that I haven't really experimented with that much. I love in theory I like Johnny Marr, and I'd love a Jaguar, and Jazz Masters look really cool and stuff, and I see people using them. Chris Buck plays one a fair amount, But then I also think there's got to be a reason why not a lot of rock guys have gone there, So maybe that's my aversion. Just that silly reason. Music Life with Arthur. What's up, dude? Thanks for the super chat. Thanks. Or here's some Kitty Sport. He says, also, is there an amp that have perfect blend of elements of a triple rec and a plexi? I mean, maybe that's a Soldano. An SLO is kind of that. It's that bigger, grindier, but it's a little more Marshall than the rectifier, I think, Because I think originally Mike was trying to do something original, but not be too off from a modded Marshall kind of sound. I kind of remember that was the vibe of the first ever blurb or review I saw of it, which was Andy Brower's review of it in Guitar World magazine, probably around 1987 or 88. Snakeskin SLO 100, the first I'd seen of it, kind of the first I'd heard of it, and he was talking about it like it was just the coolest thing ever, and kind of a plexi sort of derived but modded thing. Now we know there's some fair differences in there, but yeah, I think it's kind of, anyway. I would say that would be the one, if I had to think of an amp that combined those two things. Sir Russell 68 says, Leor, which cab would you recommend? I would get something with greenbacks with that. Could be Sir 412. Could be a Marshall, 1960 BX or something. Something with greenbacks, is what you want. Yeah. Just the standard issue ones are fine. If you want a little lower volume even, and a little more squish, little lower volume, the Eddie Van Halen ones, or the, just the Heritage greenbacks that I don't think they make anymore. Those speakers sound really good. And they'll knock off a couple dB actually, which is sometimes helpful. Okay. Let's see. That Marshall phase inverter pushes why the Mark II master volume is the best. Captures the sound of the old school Marshall and pushed it into the future. Yeah, I mean, the one could argue that the only thing is the master was pre-phase inverter. So until you get them up loud, they don't really push the phase inverter. But if it was at band volume and, proper, yes, then yes, for sure. I mean, they can sound, that's also just, it's the circuit didn't really change going to the JCM 800. Sometimes voltages did and stuff, but yeah. Yeah, we talk about AC/DC actually touring the States next year. That's true. They'll be coming to LA. I hope to make it to that show. I might be on tour, so I'm just not sure, but I hope I can, I'd love to see them again. It was so much fun. So yeah, Gary Moore used one stock Strats for sure. Hendrix did pretty well with the stock Strat. Yeah, one could argue he's not a hard rock guy, I guess, but but yeah, I mean, 100%. He's the main Strat guy on earth that existed. Victims of the Future, not Quarters of Power. Victims of the Future. Victims of the Future, Quarters of Power. Gary Moore. Do you know what your touring schedule looks like, says Mike, for 2025? Well, it's still in flux, let's say, but some interesting things abounds. So we'll see what I end up doing. Yeah. I have to actually kind of work on that this week and get I just need a little clarity actually, because there's all good stuff. There's good options and things. And I just need to kind of figure out what's happening, I guess, so that I know what my life is like. Yeah, but I'm excited. Let's just put it that way. More to come. Pat Thrall, 100%. Strats. Was there a troll or something? Some of you guys are talking like there was. I missed the post, so hate for that to happen. Most people here are very cool. Generally speaking, everybody here is cool, right? All the time. But yeah, Richie Blackmore, Deep Purple Core Strat player, Blackmore, Ingve. KK Downing did play a Strat. That's true. I think he had a white one, right? Back in the day. And then he put humbuckers in them. Glenn Tipton had one too. Black with a mirror pick guard, right? With super distortions in it or something. Yeah. What else we got here? Let's see. Bernie Torme used a stop Strat with Big Muff and had a massive fat tone. Didn't he play with Ozzy at some point? Isn't that right? I did not know you had a signature guitar till a few days ago. It's right back there. You can kind of see it on the stand right there. That's one of them. One version of it. There's a few different ones. Adrian Smith of Iron Maiden, Strat guy. Kinda. I mean, he kinda. Did he ever play one with 3 single coils, or was it always with some mods and stuff? Can't remember. Pat Thrall. The dude from British Lion, Strat guy, I guess. This is good here. Dave Murray. Dave Murray's was modded though too, right? I don't ever remember seeing the Maiden guys with 3 single coils. I could be wrong, you know. We've talked a lot about Iron Maiden today. I like that. I like it. I like that. I like that. Even Jimmy Page used a blue Strat. That's true. He did. Around God, why won't that chat highlight? I hit that about 10 times before it. I hate this mouse. Sucks. I redid it too, so it does different stuff on the right side than the left side, which some of you were like, yeah, that's what it's supposed to do. But I just had mine, so it was only left click, and I had to right click. You're pushing a button on the keyboard or whatever, and then the mouse. I hate it now that it does both because I'm always put right over the middle, and then it's on the right side. I'm just not used to it. It's like not used to the. Oh God, these modern problems we have these days. A lot of guys were rocking Charvel Strats, but they often had slightly hotter pickups. Yeah, I don't remember any like 3 single coil Charvel Strat folks, other than maybe Jeff Beck had his crazy pink one that had singles in it, but and a Kaler, I think. Didn't it have a Kaler? I think so. The Tina Turner one. I think that's for sale on that crazy sales. Anybody seen that Jeff Beck guitar auction? Kind of interesting. We got 346 people online. That's awesome. I think that's the most I've had here for a while, so that's terrific. Great to have you all here. Well, I've got you. Hit the thumbs up if you're enjoying the guitar musings. I'd appreciate it. It helps. And if you just happen to be here for some reason and you're not, please hit subscribe, because that helps too. Appreciate it. What else? What else? What else? Have you ever used a Sim 1 XT1 pedal to simulate guitar sounds? I think I know the pedal you're talking about, and I think I have one in the other room. I experimented with that pedal, and I just couldn't figure out what was going on. That's the truth. So that was how far I got with that. I just didn't. I couldn't. I was like, I don't know. You know, not to say somebody else can't get great results with it. I just didn't know how it was. I just didn't understand, I guess. Diano, Maiden, love it, 100%. Running free. I came to Maiden around the Number of the Beast album. And so I would be right into early Bruce years there. And then I went backwards and listened, and I liked the Paul Diano stuff for sure. I thought it was cool. But to me, Bruce was the voice of Maiden when they were really, taking off. And then I saw the Power Slave tour, and of course the Peace of Mind album. Those 3 records were really it was the Number of the Beast and Peace of Mind and Power Slave. That was my Maiden period, where I was like super into it, listening to them a lot. Yeah. Barefaced audio from the UK. What's that in regards to? What's that in reference to? Did Ty Tabor use the Lab series on Ear Candy? No, I think. Okay, so I heard that on the train, the guitar sound was a 30th anniversary Marshall, not unlike the one that Alex Lifeson put in his signature IK multimedia collection, Tonex collection. But I asked Ty that when I interviewed him, because he was on a Sunday Live, and he said no. He said it was a different Marshall. I don't remember which Marshall he said it was, but and I was like, really? And I almost wanted to be right, but it was him. So I might be wrong about that, but I have this clear memory of an interview with him where the 30th anniversary Marshall was mentioned. I was like, God, that amp sounds good. And it's on I agree. The guitar sound on the train is a great Marshall tone. It's just warm. and raw and not too dirty and not too clean, and just it's everything, right? It's a great sound. If you don't know the sound we're talking about, go listen to it. It's a great sounding A flat chord because they're down a half step, right? Really, really good sounding amplifier on that. But yeah, I remember him telling me, I think I could, man, my memory sucks these days, but I seem to remember him telling me that it wasn't the 30th anniversary, that it was a different Marshall. So great sound though. Yeah, so not the lab stuff, I don't think. I mean, he might have used it on some of the record, but I think primarily he had switched then. And he'd gotten away from the lab stuff after Faith, Hope, Love, because the next album was Dogman. And Dogman, he went to rectifiers, which is a great guitar sound as well, just different. He gets great sounds no matter what he uses. He's just great in general. These are those travel guitars, Ciari guitars. They've asked me to make videos for them. GL here's asked me, what are your thoughts on Ciari guitars? They've asked me to make video. I thought it was pretty neat, pretty cool design and stuff like that. I've never spent time with one really, so I would just have to get a hold of one, spend some time with it. But Heritage Guitars says, I am Fatness, some of my favorite guitars made in the old Gibson Kalamazoo factory. That's true. Yeah, Heritage is nice stuff for sure. There's Asheville guy with a super chat. Happy Sunday, and Guitar Geeks finally getting back to normal after Hurricane Helene. I have been watching a couple videos out there about the Boss G7 EQ from Bukovac and Tim Pierce. How would you use the Boss G7? Was something used by a lot of people. I mean, I think even Slash used it as like a boost, solo boost kind of thing. They've got a clean boost in them with that volume knob slider that's great for kicking the front end of an amp. But not only can you kick the front end of the amp with it, you can also tailor going into it. So that's kind of nice. Like you could push up the mids a little, drop the lows and the low mids, and get a nice targeted mid boost for solos and stuff. So that's a great use. Probably the main way I would use a pedal like that. But one of the other things you can use it for is like, let's say you're, trying to get the ultimate Strat neck pickup sound, clean Hendrixy thing or something, right? And you're like, but my tone is still too dark. I don't have quite the clarity. Well, you just get in there and shape it on the EQ. Make your pickup sound the way you want it to sound. You'd see them on boards like Rusty Anderson, and studio guitar players would use them a lot because then you can shape your tone into whatever. The producer, you're on the talk back, and the producer's like, sounds really good, but it's a little like pokey in the mids, or sounds really good, there's not enough poke, like it's not cutting. Can you make it? And you just reach down and change the EQ on your board without having to get up and do anything on an amp. They're great for stuff like that, So there's a number of different ways that you can use them. That's probably why Bukovac and Tim Pierce, talk about them, because you can just mold the tone a little bit in ways that, is very fast and efficient, I would say. So, yeah, I hope that's helpful. Thanks again for the super chat. I appreciate that. And I hope you're doing good after the crazy hurricane. I know you guys got hit hard there. So, let's see here. Does Sir make a drop-in replacement for a Fender neck? They don't really do that. They don't really do parts necks for other guitars. Not really their thing. Yeah, I mean, you might occasionally find one used where somebody swapped out a neck for something else, and then but it's not a thing that they sell really. There's Keith Moran with a super chat. Can you describe your DAW, your DAW tracks setup for mono recorded guitar tracks? Do you send to stereo bus? Basically what I do is I use a mic pre from BAE most of the time these days, and it's got a summed output on it. So it's two mic pre's. It's 1073 Neve style mic pre's in one rack enclosure. And then it's got a 1X LR out. Both those mics are getting summed in the analog world to one output. And I just plug that right into a line input on my UA interface. That's it. And then I can blend a condenser and a 57 that I've got on my cabinet out there. So that's it. That's how I do it. And it just goes right into input one on my interface. And I arm a track and I rock. It's the 1073 dual 1073 MP with the Steve Stevens mod is the preamp that I use. Feel like it's lacking some of the warmth or chunk, says, I'm not sure what the first part of this was, but do I go Thornbucker 2 or standard Thornbucker? I'd say if you want more warmth than chunk, you go Thornbucker 2. It's going to be a little warmer, darker, squishier than the regular Thornbucker would be a little less output and a little brighter. Yeah, a little more traditional PAF. Yeah. Alex says, thanks for all the content you bring to YouTube. I have a lot of respect for you, and I'm jealous because I'm a factory worker. Wish I could do what you do. Oh, man. I appreciate that. I mean, the grass is always greener and all that, right? It's like if you've got a good, steady gig and any kind of benefits or anything like that, and there's some stability and all that, there's a lot to be said for that style of life, too, But I appreciate that. It was a crazy road, the musician road. I remember Jason Sutter, my drummer friend that I did Chris Cornell with, saying, we basically gambled with our lives. It's kind of true. It's a weird career. Although these days, if you just kind of keep your wits about you and stuff, there's lots of ways to kind of earn a living, at least music adjacent, maybe more than there used to be. So once again, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. But anyways, I appreciate that. Thanks for the nice compliment. And appreciate you being here. Do you go down the vintage guitar rabbit hole? I know you have a few, but are you looking for others? I mean, occasionally I always look and then I kind of get scared and back out. When I go to Tokyo, every time I go, I spend a fair amount of time in the vintage stores and enjoy looking, at least. James Cole, who is my guitar partner in the Classic Rock show, he's really into it, and he's always buying and trading, and he's got a couple old 50s Les Pauls now, old Strat and different stuff that he's really into. He's totally into it. And I think once you get a few and you don't mind trading, and if you make the initial investment and then you've got a few that you can kind of trade and sell and buy and get into it, then it's a different ball game, because maybe it takes a $50,000 or $75,000 maybe initial investment to get a few, and then once you're in the game, then you can sell one of them and get something else that you find that's a bit of a deal, and then you can sell one of the other ones and get something else, and you kind of move things around, and you sell one and get two, and then you end up like everybody. But there's that initial kind of, I've got a few, and I don't want to sell them, is the thing. I'm good with my guitars, so I love my old Strat. I've always regretted the ones that I have sold, so it scares me to get rid of any, and that kind of prevents me from making any of those kind of lateral or slightly upwards moves that some people do. Yeah, but I've owned probably 6 or 7 over the years. I have 4 now, and then I've sold a few that I really regretted. A 59 Gibson J50 acoustic, just a beautiful acoustic that I sold. I never should have. It sounded like a Canon. It was beautiful. A 54 Les Paul gold top that I sold. Never should have sold that. That I've always regretted. And now I know I'll never get another one that, even if I got it was a player, because it had the top refinned at some point perfectly. And it had a headstock repair. Well, if I found one of those now, even a good deal would still be like 30 grand, I think, now, with those problems. So it's a fair amount of money to just lay out, So anyways, but I still like to kick the tires. You guys are talking about Daws here, because there was a DAW question. PreSonus Studio One, Cubase, some of the different Daws, Reaper. These are all sort of PC. I'm a Mac guy, so I'm Logic. Are you going to swing your hair around in large circles on stage? I don't think there's quite enough of it yet. I'm not at that level. I'm a little more like 70s, or like, yeah. Can't really go full metal yet. Oh my goodness, what time is it right now? 1:25. So I'm gonna go another well, good solid 30 or so, and then I'll jet and get some work done around here. What else are we talking about here? There's a super chat I got to get to there. There's a couple actually. Here's Fareed. Will there be a masterclass session like with the upcoming CRS tour? I don't know. We haven't talked about it. I kind of doubt it at this point because we haven't put it in motion. We did it last year and it was really cool, but I don't think so. I might do some while I'm over there. If there's anybody that wants to do something, like if I've got any opportunity in maybe late January, early February, but I just haven't planned on it right now. So I kind of might leave it till later in the year and try and do a full, because there's a fair amount of stuff going on with new things that I've got coming out and things like that. And I've got my clinic developed and I might want to just do that clinic, like my Inspired by the Tone clinic, which I kind of need a couple of specific pieces of gear for and stuff like that, and just kind of need to, and I'd rather kind of do that at dealers. So I think, long story short, I'd kind of rather do a full, like maybe UK and Europe clinic thing later in the year if possible, and do that instead of the CRS soundcheck thing this year, just because of a number of factors. But thank you for asking. And the super chat, I appreciate that. Thornbucker regular in the neck of a Les Paul. Love it. Swapped out pearly gates for a plus, but feel like it's lacking a little chunk. Oh, a pearly gates is probably a little hotter than a. What did you for a plus? Well, if you like the pearly gates, man, just go with it if it was good, but just leave it with the Thornbucker neck. I mean, you could try Thornbucker too. Pearly Gates is, I thought, an Alnico 5 pickup. And it might be just matched coils. I don't know. Thornbucker 2 might get you there. I don't know if it's going to be exactly the same. It's a little more Thornbucker 2 is a little more similar to like a 78 or something like that. It's an A2 9K affair. But you never know until you try, I wouldn't have any, if you were like, I like the pearly gates and the Thornbucker neck. I mean, I get it, Yeah. Yeah. Arthur, I missed your chat. Am I still missing your guys' super chats here, or did I get them finally? Do I miss them, or am I just not far enough down in the chat? It's hard because there's a lot of comments and stuff because there's a fair amount of people here today, so I just don't get down there that fast. But thank you for the super chats, you guys. I appreciate it. And just ask again in the bottom of the chat, and I'll try and get to them. If you're like, this was my super chat, just restate it, and I'll find it. Are you familiar with the Fractal XFX 3? If so, can you use it as an interface, or would you suggest to not use it? It's totally cool to use as an interface. It just means that you gotta. When you use something as an interface, it means you got to plug your monitors into it generally. So that's the only thing. Then you're plugging your monitor speakers into the output of the XFX. It's a little weird. So it's like maybe you just want to set it as the input only and then use it to input digitally into, Logic or whatever. And you can still have, does that make sense? You can still have your speakers plugged into whatever your main interface is, I don't use things like processors as interfaces just because logistically it'd be difficult then for me to, like, for instance, this microphone is plugged into my interface. So if I was plugged into an Axifex or a Helix or something, I guess it's got a mic in on it, but it doesn't really, it's not like a UA interface with a 8 mic and line ins, and it's like a little more configured for doing different sorts of things. So that's why it's nice. I mean, I know it's very, very easy, I think, these days to make a device like a modeler have a USB out on it and then have it operate as an audio interface. And in some instances, it makes a lot of sense. If you're traveling and you're on a laptop or something and you want to quickly record a guitar part, you can plug something like a Quad Cortex or a Helix Stomp right into your interface and quickly use that as the, just plug the headphones into the modeler and you can track and get it all done really quick. That makes sense to me. But for most of the studio stuff I do, I need an interface that's got at least, 8 inputs and for mic and line, and is a little more configurable with different types of inputs, not just electric guitar, if that makes sense. Okay. Moving down through the chat there's Dude Crush. What Marshall in a box pedal would you recommend for Hendrix? Have you checked out the new J Rocket Phil X Overdrive Boost? I haven't, but Phil did tell me it's coming out, or maybe it's out now, and so I should check it out. But for Hendrix, there's some nice stuff from Keeley. You might want to look at some of the things they've got, although I don't know if they do a Marshall in a box, but they do the kind of Hendrix, all the effects in one. So just mentioning that, like you can get something with a vibe and Octavia and everything all in one pedal. Pretty cool. And then for the Marshall thing for Hendrix, just there's so many good plexi pedals out there, man. I would say one I really liked, man, was the Engine from Drybell. Not the most common choice, but it's a treble booster boost with a great Marshall sound. There's another one called there's a Carl Martin one too. Plexi Ranger, I think it's called. That's really cool. And I know that Hendrix wasn't a treble booster guy, but you can also get Sabbath tones then, or Judas Priest, or treble booster into Marshall tones, as well as just your own tones. It works great. It's a killer sounding, targeted kind of upper mid boost, treble boost that kicks into the pedal really nicely. So those are a couple of my favorites. Marshall in a box style pedals. The Friedman small box, something like that'd work quite good too. Yeah, look at some of those, I would say. What else we got here? Let's see. Super chat. Hey, Pete, ever tried the Bill and Becky Bill Lawrence humnuckery with a plexi? I have not. What's that? Is that a Bill Lawrence humbucker, the humnuckery? I like the sound of it. Thank you for the super chat, though. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you. I played the Number of the Beast album the other day. So good. It is good. Yeah, go back and listen to Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance as well. Around the same period of time. Those two records back to back were like, that was just epically awesome metal, in my opinion. Old school British heavy metal. Love it. The second wave of British heavy metal or whatever. But those two records, great. And then you've got sort of Power Slave and Defenders of the Faith out around the same time. Good stuff. Great times. Great times. I've got great memories of that period of my musical awakening. The first Sabbath record was recorded with a Strat. The pickup failed during the process and he started using Spare SG. Is that true? Wow. Thanks, Lawrence. I didn't know that. I had no idea he ever played a Strat. Very interesting. Very interesting. How does your Sir single cut compare to a Les Paul? Well, I mean, it's really close. It's that tone. You're talking about the Aura. It's got a great, it does that thing, 100%. Yeah, it's like a Les Paul that stays in tune. Talk about Basswood. I have an 83 Destroyer with Basswood body, maple top. Sounds surprisingly good. Basswood to me has a nice tone for high gain. It's smooth and warm. I don't mind it at all, to be honest, with gain sounds. I've got more than a few guitars here, and they all sound distinctively good with gain. I think maybe it's a little, I don't know, lacking something for like if you want a traditional Strat or Telly. It's not maybe the thing. But for gain requires sometimes a different approach, and I think Eddie started using it because Holdsworth liked it. And if Holdsworth liked it, it probably meant because it was smoother. I'm just hypothesizing, but Holdsworth liked things to be all the same level and not things to poke out too much. He was trying to emulate a saxophone a lot, I think, with his lines and stuff. And he liked, he was such a good, his legato and everything was seamless with you couldn't really tell the pick notes from the hammer-ons and pulls, you know, as far as the articulation goes. And so he was also a guy that used double screw humbucker, which is kind of a smoother sound too, kind of warms up the top end a little bit. When you do like the Sir DSV, they make a pickup like that, double screw, or DSH, you know, it's a double row of screws, and that'll tend to roll off some of the punch or the attack. I think it'll make it a little smoother sounding. So just lends me to think like, you know, that's the thing with basswood, and I hear that with it. Like it's got a warmth and a smoothness for high gain that is pretty good, I think. I worked on a cool jazzy folksy Christmas song. If you're keen on hearing something like that, I'll Believe in Christmas This Year from Jillian Harris, Sessions with Jeff. You did a session for that song. Thank you very much for the super chat, and everybody go and check out his Christmas tune. Give it a listen. Robert says, your hair always looked great, long or short. Man, I don't know. I have my bad days. This period has been a rough one, this grow out of whatever I'm at now. It was difficult. Some days I look at especially in here, like this is kind of my bad side, and this is the only way I can kind of shoot in here. Going this way, over here looks like hell. It's like a mess of just stuff that, you know, tools and guitar polish, and there's no gear over it. It's not interesting to look at. So I shoot this way because all the good stuff's on this side of the room. But this is not my good side. So sometimes I look at my haggard self in the videos and I think, oh no. Did you ever check out my old band, April 6th? I don't mean to bug you. I know you're busy. We're on YouTube. Album in Memory. Thank you for that. I'm sorry I haven't, but everybody go check out April 6th as well. Joe, thanks for the super chat. And here, I'll tell you what. I'll make a page right now where I open up. I'm just going to Google search. Why is that not working? April 6th. April 6th music. Now I'll leave that open. There you are. I see you here. April 6th music videos, stats and photos. April 6th on Apple Music. I've got a page open so I can check it out later. Thanks for the super chat there. Here's a fellow with a Ciari guitar out on the road for the last 4 years. It's great, especially for practicing in your hotel room, and it works great as backup for fly day or on a cruise with the backpack. That's cool. Good photo confidence there. I'll have to give him a look. I Am Fatness is recommending Musicraft next for replacements. I really don't buy the Jack White argument. Struggle equals frustration. I kind of like Jack White's attitude when it comes to it, to be honest, about the struggle and the. Jack White is my spirit animal when it comes to if you get nerves on stage. Just think about that guy and his attitude, and it'll knock you right out of whatever you're. Like, what would Jack White do in this moment? And it's usually the right choice, you know. That's after playing a lot of gigs and things like that. I just realized, like, what the audience wants a show. He's right about that, and they want to see a show. So you better be up there to perform. And if you're not thinking about that and you're thinking too much about everything being perfect, then we're generally not focused on the right thing. You know, so I really like Jack White's attitude towards, you know, the struggle and things, because maybe you should be playing fewer notes, or maybe you should be laying into that bend a little harder. You know, this is very antithesis to to my general. I mean, I love a guitar that, you know, my guitars are like this neck spec, and I like the action really low, and a compound radius fingerboard and big frets, and the pickup's just so, and I like all this stuff, and I've spent my whole life like that. But there's something great about throwing that all out the window and just going like, make music, shut up. You know how to do this. Don't expect everything to be perfect, like it's going to make it easier or something. I mean, in some ways it does, and in some ways it makes it harder, because when things aren't just right, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes, like on my particular guitars, like if the neck is like got a little too much bow, I can't stop thinking about it. I'm like, oh, it sucks. I want to do a truss rod adjustment like mid-song, you know? But if I'm playing a guitar that's got a string gauge heavier than I'm used to, someone else's, I'm playing it through an amp that's not even mine. It's not even my pick. I was handed the pick, you know, like a jam situation or something. I don't think about any of that stuff. I just am like having fun, and I'm like hopefully having fun, or, you know, working with the tools I've got right then in that moment to make music. And I kind of love that feeling. like of just letting all that stuff go. None of it matters. It's all out the window. Let's just work with what we've got. And all that preconceived sort of expectation and everything is gone. Now you just work. I like that. So that's what Jack White makes me think of. I'm a fan. I mean, I really am. You guys are talking a little about carpal tunnel stuff here. The collection of bones in your wrist being out of line, gentle pressure with your other hand plus a wrist support, let your body heal over a year. Can it just also be, though, like the getting inflammation in that area and it's kind of a tight area? Like maybe the bones aren't necessarily out of line, but like what if things are just inflamed and it's a small area that those nerves are passing through and everything, and then they just get compressed? Because that was my understanding. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Who's my favorite Strat player? I mean, oh man. I mean, I've kind of gotta, as a kid that grew up in the early 80s, I've kind of got to give it to Stevie Ray Vaughan, because it's like, I don't know about favorite or anything. A lot of people played Strats. I always liked Strats, but he had a huge impact on me as a little kid, like, he was just so good. And I actually got to see him play live. It was mind blowing. I stood right up against the stage and watched him. And I think he gave me the overall picture of the tones that guitar could make and what it was capable, like, his technique and everything, and his fat tone and and songs and the whole 9 yards, all a Strat. Almost everything he did was a Strat, and it was like that was my, here's what you can do with a Strat, like right there, number one probably, because I started playing around 81 or 2, so that was, that really had the most impact on me, I think, because that's right when he popped out of the, came out of the blue. All of a sudden, it's Stevie Ray Vaughan with Bowie and Texas Flood, and I was like, oh my God, what, when I thought Eddie Van Halen, I thought rock guitar, Eddie Van Halen, humbucker, plexi, single humbucker and a Strat. When I thought Les Paul, I probably thought Billy Gibbons around that time, because I saw ZZ Top twice, like in a year or two span in the early 80s, and just Billy, that was, and maybe, Pete Townsend with a Les Paul Deluxe, because that was kind of what he was playing towards the mid to late 70s. And then the Schecter Telly in the early, and then Strat had to be, to me, Stevie Ray Vaughan, that would be my imprinted on me. So what's the hardest part of constantly creating content? Topics, filming, editing, writing songs. You do a lot. What's your favorite? My favorite is writing. I guess the hardest part is probably feeling like sometimes I let people down, not with videos I make, but with videos I haven't made, because there's a lot of demand, to be honest, to do videos. Like I get a lot of requests to make videos, and I want to do them all. And it's, as musicians, we're like, we take all the work that we can. That's just how we're wired, right? But sometimes I don't get to things for a while, and I feel like I let people down and I disappoint people. That's hard. I've got a problem with disappointing people. I'm a bit of a people pleaser, I think, that personality type. So that's just me being honest. It's because I kind of developed my channel around working for companies and products, and there's a lot of YouTubers I respect a lot that didn't do that, and a lot of them recommend that I don't do that. A lot of them are like, if you just do this other thing, you will never make those videos again, like product videos or whatever, like, and it'll be better for you, and I appreciate that, like, because they're very successful, some of them much more so than I on YouTube, but the flip side of the coin is I quite like what I do. I do enjoy it. I think that you can probably tell in the videos I make. And I never got into it to just have the biggest channel or be the most successful YouTuber or whatever. I don't want to say I don't care, but I like what I do, and I sort of like how I do it, and maybe I've gotten too comfortable with it or something. But um, the idea of completely shifting it up and doing different things is kind of interesting to me, I guess. But I don't know. I basically like what I do and where it's at, I guess. So it's just yeah, sometimes I just can't get everything done, you know? So like and it's hard because I'm a bit of a procrastinator, like getting work started, and then once I get started, I go. Like so I'll get in here and my goal might be to get in at 9:30 or 10 a.m. and start a video. And might not for reasons like just life and things. I might not get in here till 2 or 2:30. And it's like, oh, I'll get a late start already. And I procrastinate to get started on what am I going to do? And then I finally plug in the thing and then I get going and then it starts to flow. And I just like go like, oh, what about this? And then I just start making music. I forget about all the BS or whatever. And then I pull up my phone, I record a little idea and then, get the drums going and everything. And then I just make my video, whatever I'm going to do. And it generally happens kind of like that. And so I guess I don't know what the hardest part is. The editing's really not that hard. I don't love it, but I like it. I'm not in love with editing, but I don't mind the process, I guess. Filming is a bit of a pain just from the like when you do everything yourself, like I say, sometimes I look like hell, I think, in the videos. It's like I'll look at the footage and go, that's what I've got to work with. Oh, because I'm trying to concentrate on playing. So you sit here and get sweaty playing guitar for like 4 hours or whatever, and then finally you push film and or record, you don't look so great, but nobody's there to tell you that because you're your own, engineer. But I guess that's part of it, so you can tell that like I'm not making a glossy advertisement. I'm just here making music or whatever. So, what's my dread? My dread is when I feel like obligated to make something that I just don't want to do. But I've got myself a built-in escape hatch there. I just decide to not make the video, and then my problem is, and it's not even really that big of a deal, but then I need to contact a company and say I can't make this video for you, and I know that's got to be not fun or disappointing or a letdown for certain artist relations people and stuff to hear, because they're out there trying to get things done, and if they're like, why not, like they have a faith in you or something that you're going to do it, and then you don't. But that's just I've maintained that I'm never going to do something here where I say something's good and I try and promote something, because that's what we're doing, marketing, and I'm never going to do that unless I can really get behind it. So I guess there you go. That's me being honest. Thanks for the super chat, though, Davey. Appreciate that. Thank you. After discovering you're enjoying the A2 magnets in your humbuckers, do you have a few pickups you can recommend? Like A2 style pickups or just any kind of pickups? Some of the pickups that I really enjoyed, for instance, when I did the Eddie Van Halen pickup shootout thing to try different ones, I discovered what I liked about super distortion style pickups. I discovered what I liked about custom style, like 14K A2. I discovered what I like about A5 PAFs, and I sort of discovered what I like about A2 9K pickups. And some of my favorites, were probably I really liked the 78. I really liked the A2 version of the Thornbucker we had, which led me to do sort of a slightly hotter one that's more like 9K. I really like the Pariah pickups a lot. They do great stuff. That company is like, both of them, they did a 14K they sent me, and they did a 9K that they sent me, and those pickups were just exceptional sounding. So I still have them, and I'd like to put them in something actually. Just very, very good pickups. So there's a few different ones there that I can recommend. But Pariah, I have to say, I mean, whatever they're doing is really, I've got my own pickups. So of course, those are my number one that I can recommend, but really quite like those. And then like commercially available stuff, that is easier to get, sort of, not commercially, but like a bigger company, whatever. Duncan, both the 78 and the custom were terrific for the 9 and 14K sort of categories. It's about 1:50. I'm gonna go about another 10 minutes, and I'm gonna split. There's a Peter Evans. What's up, man? Another Killer Sunday show. Videos this week. See you at the Angel City event on the 19th. That's right, folks. Just one more reminder. I've got a clinic coming up, Angel City Guitars in the Los Angeles area on the 19th of this month. Contact Angel City Guitars if you want to go. You just have to sign up, I think, on their website. I think it's free. I think. They had a couple of my guitars in stock the last time I was there, a couple versions. So there'll be a couple of, Pete Thorn guitars out there if you want to check them out and haven't played one. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate that. And also you said videos this week. I've got some crazy tube circuits coming. I've got to do a video for the Evertune bridge. One of those ones that somebody's been waiting a long time for. So I got to get to that. Evertune. I've got a video for the new headrush situation. That includes, so more on that in a little bit. But I got that. I'm headed towards all of that good stuff. A couple amps, a Dr. Z, and a Friedman. Those are coming. There's a lot of stuff. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate the super chat. Do you know John Sykes? I do, actually. Would there be any chance of having on Sunday Live? The Blue Saraceno one was so awesome. John really is one of those fellas. Is a few guys that I know from that era now. That's my heroes that I've been able to meet. I'm so stoked on it. But John is one of those guys that just doesn't really do a lot of this kind of stuff. And I always respect that. He's just not, this is not really his thing, you know? But he is a lovely, lovely, lovely guy. He's a really funny. He's got great stories. He still plays like ripping. It's all there. And he's I really like him. I get to see him every now and then, and he's just always great to see him, you know. Terrific. He was a big influence on me. John Sykes to me was like a quintessentially an awesome European rock guitar player. You know, he had that thing that was just, he played with fire, and there's some blues in there, but it was also modal and melodic. You know, when I think of Gary Moore or Michael Schenker or John Sykes, you know, there's a line that runs through a lot of the great European rock guitar players where they just had a style and a friggin' flair and a classiness, and also just a balls out, like, you know, when he wanted to rip, and his vibrato, and I mean, it was like he was really going for it, you know. And he wrote great stuff too, and he could sing his ass off. He's, you know, what a terrific musician. So can't say enough. But yeah, he's just a little, you know, he's just to some guys. I mean, they came from a different era. They're not so comfortable with this stuff that we do. You know, it's just a different thing. I get that, because I got one foot in one and one foot in the other, kind of, just because of my age, I guess. Yeah. Never say never, you know. But anyway, what's my favorite multi-chorus pedal? Well, I gotta say, I'll give you two. The Sir Alexa is 2 choruses in one, and sounds really amazing. And it's analog and designed beautifully. It's a total underrated pedal. I just saw a new modulation pedal from, well, I'm never gonna be able to find it on here, but it was on Threads, and it looks like a multi-mod thing that looks really cool. So, what else? Oh, the Waza chorus, or Waza Dimension. Great. The Boss Waza stuff. Across the board, they're all good. The Metal Zone's great. I mean, like the Waza stuff, they nailed it. And the Waza CE chorus pedal, whatever, the blue one, terrific. So check out that and the Sir as well. Prince Westerberg says using an Axe Effects as your main interface would be limiting to flexibility. Yeah, just as far as like plugging in. Like I can mic a drum kit with my interface, you know, but I can't do that with an Axe Effects or easily, you know, the vocal mic thing. I mean, I guess Axe Effects does have an XLR, doesn't it, on the back? But it's just not, you know, like I want to mic 2 amps. How am I going to do that? You know, so stuff like that. Yeah. Kent Jackson says he loves the Thornbucker in something. Thank you, Kent. Appreciate that. Did you see the Rhett John? I almost thought you said John Candy discussion about amp plugins and preamp interface gain. No, but I've seen this recently. Somebody talking about that like I saw a video recently where the guy talks about gaining up going in and then dropping the output or something like that to lower the noise floor. So I guess I should probably watch that video, but check it out because it kind of makes sense to me. Sort of, I think it's a kind of a signal to noise, sort of affair, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm gonna go in a sec here, but Screaming for Vintage, Defenders of the Faith, had those on cassette, and Rock-a-Rolla. Great stuff. Great stuff. All right. There's just gonna catch any more super chats here. Best bedroom volume amps for the VH1 or VH2 sound. I mean, bedroom volume. I would probably have to go like, if you just want a small amp, like, you're probably not going to get better than something like a Roland, like a Katana or the Cube or something with the brown mode, right? I mean, if we're talking about bedroom volume, I got a pretty good. Did you see that reel I did with where I played I'm the One on the Fly 3? Sounded pretty good, I thought. It was $75. But if you want the reverb and a little echo and everything, probably a Boss. They kind of do that, If it's so low in volume, it doesn't really probably a modeling thing. My friend has original Eddie Van Halen guitars modded with Carvin pickups. Eddie's tech called him in the early 2000s. He said, my boss would like to buy it back from you. Oh, how interesting. Huh. Did he sell it? I guess not. I would have said, I'll tell you what, I'll trade you. You don't have to buy it from me, but can I come to your place and I'll trade you for... Let's talk. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. What else are we talking here? Inflammation can cause carpal tunnel as well. Yeah. Aren't most of Steve Vai's guitars basswood? I think so, yes. He seems to like basswood. Eric Johnson is playing, Robin Ford is playing a Strat again. Custom Shop Sounds Burst, the big headstock. Wow, he sounds so good with it. I bet he does. He always sounds great. He's amazing. Vai uses mostly Alder. Does he? What? I thought the gems were all basswood back in the day. And I guess I don't know what a current, is that right? I mean, what's a current Steve Vai? What's the current? Okay, let's look at a signature gem, the $1,700 one. I'm just looking at the specs here. Alder. Interesting. I think the originals were basswood. So did he go to Alder eventually? And is that what he's kind of using now on the newest sort of versions of what's this? His signature? I don't know what these are called. The Pia, right? Was that Alder as well? I'm taking a look here. More details. Yeah, I guess he's gone to Alder. I've got clear memory of them being basswood back in the late 80s, but I guess I could be wrong. I don't know. Am I nuts? Maybe he moved away from that. I would say the one thing is I know he's kind of he can get pretty with the bar and picking the guitar up and stuff, and basswood's kind of soft. And I think he on his original Charvel, that was basswood, I think. The Charvel that he pulled the bridge out of before he was exercising the bridge before he went on stage with Vi, and I think the post pulled right out of the guitar. Maybe he's got a thing about that, because Alder's definitely a little more of a harder, a little more, if you're going to really abuse the bridge and stuff, basswood's a little more prone to, maybe it's got something to do with that. I don't know. Just speculation. Lost Bedlam there with a super chat. Thoughts on the SL67 versus the Tone King Royalist? The Royalist is a little more towards JTM 45, I think. But it does have the lead channel. It's got the different front ends in it there where you can switch on the knob. So yes, that's going to be a little softer, a little less late 60s aggressive, just a little. Obviously versatile with the front end and all that stuff, but it's a little more JTM 45 than the solidly lead spec, a little bit later 60s into the early 70s SL67. I'll say that. Yeah. Grab that last super chat. Where is it? What is it? Where is it? Did I get it? Maybe it was that one. I think it was that one. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to split. I hope I didn't miss any of those super chats. I think there was one that somebody said they made that I missed. So I hate that. I don't want to. I'm just looking back through them real quick here, but I don't think I miss any. I hope not. I remember getting all these ones I'm seeing. So everybody have a terrific week, and I'll be here next week for sure. Same time, same place. We'll be getting towards Christmas next week. We'll have started my Christmas party extravaganza. I've got a few to go to, so it's like not my Christmas party. I'm not having one, but I'm going to a bunch. Extravaganza week, as I hope you all have. You can go see your friends and family and have fun, wear your silly sweaters and all that good stuff. Fun times. I'll miss you all this week, but I'll see you next Sunday. Have an awesome time out there. Be nice to one another. Take care. Best of the season to you. Pete Thorn signing off. Over and out.